Alex, thank you so much for joining me on Crypto World today. Crypto margin lending is this idea that investors can access some of their wealth tied up in Bitcoin holdings. So what has the trend been like in recent months toward this strategy, especially with the run-up in prices since last year?
Yeah, so certainly the trend has been for more borrowers to be looking to borrow fiat currency against Bitcoin for a number of reasons. We've seen it historically in the first quarter. People will borrow against their Bitcoin to make tax payments or other things like that. People are also looking to borrow to buy real world assets. People are buying homes, cars, whatever it might be, and they don't want the tax consequence of selling their Bitcoin, right? They'd rather borrow against it, make the investments or purchases that they want and pay back the loans. So that's kind of the same trend we've seen in the Q1s of prior years as well.
One thing we heard from Haynes Boone ahead of this interview is that your lawyers were seeing big banks getting more involved with this practice. So what does that look like, and how involved are they?
Yeah, so we're seeing the first, we've talked to the banks about it for a long time. I come from the traditional world of finance, of representing banks when they're lending to hedge funds and private equity funds against liquid securities, things that you would see in the S&P 500. But now banks are starting to dip their toes into this same marketplace in the same way they would lend against securities. They're not doing it directly yet, but some of the lenders, like Arch Lending as an example, has a new securitized portfolio of loans against BTC, and some of the institutional lenders are looking to products like that to dip their toes into a portfolio of loans that are secured by Bitcoin. So that, I would say, is kind of like the first iteration that we're seeing from institutional lenders and in some cases banks to look at this product.
And what's the benefit for the banks? And if you could also, touch on the risks for them given crypto's volatility.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly the banks, the interest rates on these loans are substantially higher, I would say, than home loans, car loans, commercial loans that are in the marketplace. Even if interest rates are generally higher against all those products, interest rates that you can charge against cryptocurrency-based loans, whether it's Bitcoin-backed, Ethereum, Solana, whatever it might be, those interest rates are a little bit higher, or certainly higher than what commercial banks are seeing in other products that they're lending against. The risk obviously is the volatility. We've seen it historically with Bitcoin and Ethereum and these other assets, that the value of Bitcoin and Ethereum can drop significantly in short periods of time. And, like it happened in 2022, to the extent that does happen, some of these lenders can be, caught a little bit short to the extent they're slow on making margin calls or otherwise liquidating assets against these loans. So, the risk of the volatility, I'd say, is number one.